Hello again. We've been talking about ratio analysis. We've gone through the various types of ratios. We've looked at one example of a problem, and here's a second example. Again, we're given ratios, and we know that the current ratio and the quick ratio have to do with liquidity. And looking at a brief overview here, we can see that it's increasing as far as the current ratio, and it's above the industry norm. Whereas the quick ratio went down and then it went up, but it's below the industry norm. So as far as the liquidity, it's still very good because it's above the rules of thumb. Remember, the rule of thumb for current ratio is above 2. It is definitely that, and the quick ratio is above 1, so it's above that. So the company is able to pay its bills, but maybe not as well as others in the industry. We know that inventory turnover has to do with the activity. And so inventory turnover, it looks like we are a retailer. Oh, this isn't good. Notice that our inventory is turning slower. It only refreshes about 2 times a year. Wouldn't that be nice? You only stock the shelves twice a year. Whereas the industry average is 3.5. So this is definitely a problem because our inventory is slowing and way below our industry norm. Net sales to stockholders' equity, return on common stockholders' equity have to do with profitability. So let's see, according to this, our net sales, that's increasing, and it's above the industry norm, so we're able to generate a lot of sales for our investor base. A return on common stockholders' equity is also improving and is above the industry norm. So this is definitely a good thing, those two things. And finally, coverage, which is total liabilities over total shareholders' equity. Notice that it goes down, goes up, but it's definitely above the industry. So who owns the company? We know that if it's above 1, that means the creditors have more say than the shareholders, whereas it looks in our industry, usually the shareholders have more say. So since it's above 1, that may also be an area that we want to understand better why. So we've answered Part A, describe the analytical use of each of the 6 ratios. And in Part B, it says for each of the 4 entities or points of view, explain which 2 ratios would be most interesting. The first one is a bank, so we're interested in the ability to pay. And so if I'm interested in the ability to pay, I'm asked to look at my current ratio and my quick ratio, because it's how quickly can I get cash, and pretty quick. The next person is a supplier, and a supplier is interested again in the ability to pay, but they're not only going to be interested in the current and the quick ratio, but they'll probably also be interested in the inventory turnover, because if you're a supplier of inventory. And so you're very interested in is how quickly does the company sell your stock. The next one has to do with a brokerage firm, which has to do with investors. And so investors would be very interested in net sales to shareholders' equity, because they're interested in how much sales you're able to generate on the investors' contribution. And then also net income to shareholders' equity to see how profitable they are for your investment. And the last one has to do with management. And management, again, is interested in how agile are they. And so they would be interested in their current ratio. Can they get cash? They'd be interested in their quick ratio, their ability to pay their bills, and they'd also be interested in their inventory turnover, because that's how they earn revenue, is by selling inventory. So if that inventory is turning slower, that doesn't speak well. They're either buying the wrong inventory, or well, they've got a problem. The last one, Part C, we're going to turn here, and it says discuss the financial ratios, and then think about what you can talk about their interrelationships. So there's one that you could do that's kind of fun, that if I wanted to figure out what the profit margin is, and you know that profit margin is net income over net sales. So the things that I could use is, I know that I've got net sales to stockholders' equity, right? And I have net return on common stockholders' equity, which is net income to shareholders' equity. So what if I took, since those proportions, shareholders' equity is the same, what if I took, I want to do it this way. Oops, excuse me. What if I took net income and I put it over net income to shareholders' equity over net sales to shareholders' equity? Would it also give me what the profit margin is? Because shareholders' equities kind of cancel each other out. And we can find out by doing this in all 3 years that by using these two, in 2012, my net income to net sales is 5.17. In 2013, it's going to be 5.36, and in 2014, it's going to be 5.69, and I can also do it for the industry, and when I do it for the industry, I find it's 3.86, and that's just by taking those ratios and dividing them by each other. So notice that in all of these, my profit margin is increasing and is way above the industry average. To say it a different way, you could say that over 5 cents of every sales dollar is profit, and that far exceeds the industry norm of about 3.8 cents, or a little less than 4 cents per sales dollar being profit. So this is another way that you can show interrelationships and use different ratios to find a third ratio.